Awesome. All right, so welcome everyone. This is the monthly Career Cafe. We're happy you're here and we hope you're enjoying your summer so far. So I'm Laura Reed. I'm one of the career coaches. I have a background in student academic advising from George Brown. I also did some Employment Ontario, work with people with disabilities, and I have a career development professional certificate from Conestoga College, and I'm very happy to be here with everyone.
All right, thanks, Laura. Hey, everybody, my name is Keelin. I am a career coach. I've been in the field for about 5 years now, and I've been working with Devant for just over 2 years as a career coach and a facilitator. I recognize some of your names, so I think some of you might recognize the two of us. Laura and I usually facilitate together, which is nice. And I also recently started at Devant as an event coordinator. So if you have any ideas for upcoming events that you would like to see from us, I am your girl. Please let me know and we can try to get those scheduled for you.
Awesome. So just a little bit of background about Devant. We help students get hired and graduates to get hired in Canada as well. We've helped over 25,000 plus job seekers from across Canada. We've had 500 live expert career development events since 2019. And then there's 30 plus Canadian employers with active job opportunities with us too. So that's great.
I don't know how that confetti happened. Did you see that?
I did. It was festive.
I liked it. I don't know how it happened, but it was
good. All right. So just as we get started, it's an interactive workshop. We know you can't put your camera on, but please feel free to interact with us in the chat. We'll be checking. Please feel free to raise your hand on one of the reaction modes in Zoom. Ask your questions in the comments as well. Don't be shy, by the way, just if you have a burning question, let us know. This session will be recorded and shared by email to everyone that's here tonight, so you can go back and look at it after. And our future event sessions are available under the Devant tab. So you can do that as well and book sessions in advance for the workshops and one-on-one coaching with us as well.
And we will drop the link to the chat later on, and we'll also share some of our upcoming events. Before we start with the questions, we've got an introduction. Welcome, Dragana. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Recent Yorkville graduate, congratulations. Counseling psychology, amazing. Ooh. Coming to Canada and looking for online employment, telemental health. Currently calling from Croatia. Amazing. Welcome and congratulations for recently graduating. That's amazing. That actually kicks us off into our questions. What are your wins this week? Dragana, I don't know if that happened this week, but I'm going to count that as a win, so we can still celebrate for you. Congratulations. Anybody else? Any wins this week? Any challenges this week? That's why Laura and I are here to really help you with your job search. So let us know, help us celebrate your job search wins, or let us help you with some challenges that you're experiencing in the job search in Canada. Laura, do you have any wins or challenges this week to kick us off?
I sure do. I have my, I'm starting employment with the Hamilton Public Library on Monday. So.
Yay! Congratulations. That's huge. I remember last time we had a career cafe, your win was that you had an interview coming up with them.
And yes, I actually got the job.
Yay! Congratulations. Amazing. I started a job this week too on Monday, so that is my win. See, last time we had a career cafe last month, Laura and I were both actively job searching, and now we are both employed. So see, we're job searching right along with y'all. So.
Yep, and we know how to do it. So if you have any questions, we can do it effectively. So that's why we're here to help.
Anybody else? Wins, challenges, or even just anything you're struggling with in the job search that you'd like our advice on?
Any questions about resumes or cover letters or anything like that?
Darshan, welcome. Recent graduate from Algoma University. Congratulations. Got another graduate here. Bachelor's degree in computer science general. Amazing. Very cool. Darshan, are you actively job searching? What type of job are you looking for?
Okay.
are. Let us know how we can help you. Anything you're struggling with, anything you want specific advice on. Hi, Gwari. Again, apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Landed here in Canada on August 12th. Oh my gosh, that was very recently. Congratulations and welcome. International student, enrolled in supply chain management at Humber College. Nice. Yes, loving the weather here. It has been a very nice and sunny week. So you landed at a good time. Facing the difficulty to find a part-time job currently in the market. Ooh, okay. So we've got Darshan who's looking into IT jobs and Gwari who's looking for a part-time job. Can you give us a little bit more info on what type of part-time job you are looking for? Maybe we can help you out a little bit more. And Darshan, let us know if there's anything specific you're struggling with looking to get into an IT job. And if you would like to come off mute, you can like request to speak out loud if it's easier than typing in the chats. We can unmute you as well if you just like raise your hand, or I think you can just click request to unmute and we can allow you.
Perfect. So I'll just get started with a little info here. So just when you're looking for a job in general, you kind of want to know what industry you're looking for specifically. So I know you're looking for an IT job, for example, but in what department in IT exactly? So that's something to think about too. And then also, if you're just looking for a job in general, you want to make sure that you have a customized resume and cover letter that's specifically industry oriented. So you want to make sure that you're sending out pertinent and relevant information to employers, and they'll be much more likely to get back to you for sure. So just something to think about.
Welcome, Danny. Part-time job in a financial institution. Okay. And starting the financial planning and wealth management program at Lambton College. Amazing. Very cool. All right. Darshan's looking for tech support and information security analyst roles. That is very cool. Actually, recently, I just left working in the tech industry, but I was working in the tech industry for a little over a year and a half, helping people find jobs as web developers and data analysts. So there's a little bit of tech support in there. So Darshan, if there's anything specific you are struggling with, let me know. I would be happy to help. I have a lot of experience helping job seekers in the web dev and the IT fields. So is there anything specific you're struggling with? You're job searching, you're looking for tech support roles, you're looking for information security analyst roles. What's going on? Are you sending in applications? Are you getting interviews? Are you not getting interviews? Kind of let us know what stage you're at. It helps us a little bit more. We can give you more advice.
Do you know like what companies you want to work for? Okay.
Ooh, you're gonna LinkedIn job ads. Can you explain what are the chances of getting employed for the jobs that are already advertised? So far, I didn't get any interviews. Okay, we've got 2 people in the chat who are not getting any interviews. Laura, do you want to speak a little bit more to the customizing resume that you're talking about? Because I think that's the first step.
Yeah, sure. So if you're like looking at a LinkedIn job ad, for instance, you want to make sure that you're looking at the job description, going through all the different skills and qualifications that they're looking for. So basically every resume and every cover letter is going to be different based on the job and based on the company. So a really incentivizing thing to do is tell them about how much you like their initiatives, and definitely talking about the skills that they're specifically looking for. So if it actually says like we are looking for strong team players, you want to make sure that a strong team player is mentioned right at the top of your resume in the qualifications section. So that's something to think about for sure. I was having the same problem as well, by the way. And I was just applying, and I actually ended up getting my job because I did really well in the interview. So they actually upgraded me, even though the the job position was actually already closed. It closed in May and they put it in at the end of June. I did get the job. So just making sure that you nail that interview based on what the company really wants to hear. And what they loved about like what I was saying was that I really enjoyed their like values and like what they do for the community and everything. So that was really something that got me in. So even if you have to apply for a job that's maybe not as high as you wanted initially, which initially the job I applied to was not as high as I wanted, they just fast tracked it anyway. So just make sure you're applying anyway, just to get in the company, even if you have to.
That's awesome, Laura. Yeah, I remember you saying that you applied to one job that was a little bit lower, and then you did really well in the interview, so they kind of bumped you up to the next level. That's amazing. Really good advice for getting in, especially if there's like a specific company or a specific industry that you're really, really interested in. Just like applying to a role and getting your foot in the door so they know that you exist can be a really good strategy. Another thing, so I know, Giordana, you asked specifically about the LinkedIn job ads. So I think you mean when you go to the job board on LinkedIn and you type in a keyword, or you type in to look for a specific job, and then all these jobs come up. I will say that LinkedIn is absolutely fantastic as a job board, because I find it's where most companies are posting these days. I find by far LinkedIn and Indeed are the most common job boards in Canada, the most populated job boards in Canada in terms of employers posting jobs, which is fantastic. The downside is that LinkedIn and Indeed are also the most popular job boards for job seekers. So there's a lot of jobs on LinkedIn, but there's also a lot of job seekers on LinkedIn applying to those jobs, which unfortunately means that some of those jobs are oversaturated. I'm sure some of you have seen on LinkedIn, you go to apply to a job and it says like 311 people have applied to this job in the last 2 days. And I know that can feel really demotivating. Like I said, there's a lot of jobs on there, but there's also a lot of job seekers on there applying to those jobs. What will help you stand out is what Laura was saying, customizing your resume, making small changes to your resume for every job that you apply to. And by that, we don't mean that you have to write your resume from scratch every time. It just means that you have to make those small changes. So like Laura was saying, make sure the skills that are listed in the job posting, if you have those skills, make sure they're listed in your resume. Close to the top, employers and recruiters read resumes from the top down. So we want to make sure that most important information is at the top, grab their attention right away. And this can be soft skills as well as hard skills. So by soft skills, I mean things like being a team player, like Laura said, communication, things like that, kind of personality traits almost. And then hard skills are things like, I'm going to delve back into IT because again, that's kind of what my background is in the career coaching field. So hard skills would be things like knowing JavaScript, knowing SQL, knowing Python. And if the job posting is specifically asking for those things, make sure they're in your resume, make sure they're close to the top, because I can guarantee that of those 311 people who have applied to that job, maybe 10% of them have taken the time to customize their resume to actually match that job posting. 90% of those people are just clicking easy apply and using the exact same resume to send to every single job that they're applying to, which means that the skills that they're asking for might not be on those people's resumes. So I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but to answer your question, there is a chance of getting jobs on LinkedIn, even if hundreds of people have already applied for them, because again, the majority of those people are not taking the time to customize their resume and cover letter for the job that you're applying to. And if you do that, it's automatically going to help you stand out for those roles.
Perfect. Yeah, just another point to make here too. If you happen to be able to see who the recruiter is or the talent acquisition person is, please put their name in the cover letter. Honestly, I was reading an article on LinkedIn actually about someone who was a recruiter, and they specifically wanted their name in the cover letter. They wrote that in the instructions, and out of 100 resumes and cover letters, one person did it. So they automatically went to the very top and she called them first thing, right? So just those little tiny things that you don't really think about, if you can try to just make them more personal, it's really going to put your foot in the door for sure.
Wow, that's a great article, Laura.
Yeah.
Very cool. And also it just shows like making those little customizations really, really gets you ahead of the competition in terms of applicants, because it shows that you're excited about the role. It shows that you actually took the time to read the job posting, which Laura just proved not a lot of people do. And if you put yourselves in the shoes of an employer, Would you rather hire somebody who is really, really excited about working for your company, who has written a resume and cover letter specifically for you, talking about why they're so excited for the role and why they're such a good fit for your company? Or would you rather hire somebody who just clicked like easy apply, didn't read the job description, sent you the same resume they sent to dozens of other employers? You're going to want to go with the first person. So we have to make sure that in your resume and in your cover letter, that excitement and that passion is coming through. So that employer or the recruiter on the other end says like, wow, this person is really excited about this role and I want to bring them in for an interview. Ooh, yeah, better to merge cover letter with resume or have them as two separate docs. Yeah, Laura, you want to expand on that?
I'm sorry, I was trying to get it in there, but so yeah, so basically, if they ask for it to be two different documents, do it as such. But if not, I usually just do it as one. Cover letter comes first, resume comes second. Also, most companies like it to be a PDF, but some do not. So that's also something else that could get you ahead. So if it doesn't say, definitely make it a PDF. But if it does, make sure it's as they say.
Yeah, I agree. Another reason to read the job description, if they specifically ask for the cover letter and resume to be in separate documents and you submit them in one document, it shows lack of attention to detail. It shows that you didn't read the job posting. But yeah, if you have a choice, or if there is only like one field to upload, for example, if there's a place to upload your resume, but no place to upload your cover letter, I would still include a cover letter and just merge it in the same document. And again, like Laura was saying, PDF is always the best unless specifically asked for not PDF. Hi, Claudia. What do you recommend to consider in the executive summary or personal description in your resume? Should I include soft skills or just in the cover letter? That is a good question. And I think it depends on the industry and it depends on the role that you're applying for. If you read the job description and it does include a lot of soft skills. So for example, Laura and I are in the coaching and counseling field where soft skills are very, very important. They want to know that their coaches are compassionate, empathetic, good communicators, comfortable working one-on-one as well as talking to groups. And those are all soft skills. And those are all things that I'm going to include in my resume and make it like at the top. In my personal description, I include a lot of soft skills. I include things like me being empathetic, me being a good communicator, me being compassionate, things like that, which are all soft skills. Versus if I'm a web developer applying for a web development role, I'm probably not going to include a lot of soft skills because if I write like, I'm a very empathetic and compassionate web developer, they're going to be like, I don't care, do you know how to code JavaScript, right? So I think it kind of depends on the job that you're applying to and what's listed in the job posting.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Keelin said, it depends for sure. So let's say you're in a computer science program, but you're just looking for a part-time job. You're going to want to make sure that you include any relevant soft skills right at the top based on the job posting though. And any of the computer science stuff, you're probably going to want to put closer to the bottom. So in that case, if you're looking for a service job, you're going to want to put your education near the bottom of the resume. But if you're looking for a job in the computer industry, you're going to want it to put it right at the top. So it also depends on the industry too, as Keelin was saying.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Milan, I am so sorry that happened to you. I just read your comment in the chat. I know that is so frustrating when you get an interview and you get so close and it goes to somebody internally, which is frustrating, but it also shows the importance of like networking and getting those referrals to get into jobs. I will also say that getting a job right now as a web developer in Canada is tricky, especially as a front-end web developer. The market is very saturated right now. There's a lot of tech layoffs happening. There's a lot of web developers looking for work, and I am so sorry that you're in this frustration right now. I feel it. I have a lot of clients who are in the same space right now. It's a tough place to be in. It's a tough job market in tech. Honestly, you just have to keep doing what you're doing, keep applying, like you were saying, keep customizing your resume to match the job description, keep including those keywords, network if you are not doing so already, but also keep your portfolio and keep those projects up to date. I always say that job searching and when you're a web developer and looking for work in web development is kind of 50-50. Like half the time you should be spending job searching, networking, applying to those roles, but also keep your coding skills up to date, because the last thing we want is for you to get a tech assessment or a tech challenge and you realize that you haven't actually written a line of code in 3 weeks because you've been so focused on the job search. And also, I'm sure you're a web developer because you enjoy coding, probably more than you enjoy job searching. So make sure you're working on like a fun, fat passion project on the side as well. We do have the option to review LinkedIn and resumes. We're going to talk about that a little bit at the end, but I would recommend that you come to our upcoming resume workshop where you can actually send in your resume beforehand and we can review it live for you in the session.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that too. Since the job market is so saturated right now as well, I think you should also just look for companies that you're really interested in working for. And then when you like write a cover letter, or if you write like a note to someone that you're trying to network with, you can just like put your passion into that note. And it's just going to make you a lot more attracted than the other ones because there's more motivation behind it. So I would just go for all of the companies that you're actually really wanting to be with and network with them as much as you can.
Yeah. Also, I am shameless when I job search. I always reach out directly to who I think the hiring manager is or who I think the recruiter is. Like, I always try to take that extra step. In the job that I mentioned that I started on Monday, I found who the manager of the department was through LinkedIn. I sent her an email saying that I had recently applied for the job and talking about how excited I was and why I thought I was a good fit. And she never responded to that email, but I did get an interview and I did get the role. So it could have played some sort of role in helping me stand out. But I always recommend clients do that as well. Either send them a message on LinkedIn or send them an email. Again, you may never get a response, but it does show your excitement. It shows how passionate you are. It shows that you took the time to like research the company and find the person responsible for the role. Of course, we don't want to be messaging them or emailing them like 20 times, begging for an interview, but just saying something like, hey, I recently applied to this role. I'm reaching out to you because I'm just really hoping to get eyes on my application. Here's what I think I'm a good fit. Hope to see you soon for an interview or something like that. It really just goes that extra mile and helps you stand out. Okay, we've got a question in the Q&A box. From Jordana, for people that have transitioned from other careers, for example, I have 2 master's degrees, should I state both of them? I was a teacher before I graduated in counseling. It is related, but not the same, although a lot of transferable skills are at stake. So congratulations for having 2 master's degrees. That is very impressive. Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about this? I know you're good at talking about transferable skills.
Yeah, so and there's also someone in the chat as well who's saying that they don't have like any employment experience. So it kind of depends also if you've had any employment experience at all. So basically, I talked about this before too, but I worked a lot in the food industry. I worked a lot in the clothing industry, which are both places that have a lot of like communication skills and service skills and team working skills and things like that you need to be a career coach. So I added all of those things too. I know some of you are in like areas that are more like not career science developed, career science, all those types of fun things. Every industry that you work in, they're going to want you to have good communication skills no matter what. So if you have any sort of experience working that you can say like, I've worked here and I've had a lot of experience communicating like well with people on teams, that's a huge thing. It might not seem like it, but soft skills are important as well to intermingle, even for the people that are in the sciences. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it can put you on top for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. It's the same thing with like transferring work. I would include those master's degrees unless you're just applying for like a part-time job like in retail or restaurant industry or like a grocery store or something like that, just while you're studying, then I would probably leave off the master's degrees because you don't want them to think that you're overqualified for the role. But if you're applying for a counseling role, definitely include those 2 master's degrees and include your teaching experience and talk about, again, those transferable skills. So like Laura was saying, in her resume, when she's talking about working retail, she probably doesn't talk about like how she's good at like folding the clothes or like tracking inventory and stuff like that. She's going to focus more on like those communication skills, like she said, interacting with customers, those people skills, because that's what is relevant. So again, like when you're including teaching, when you're looking for counseling, I would say something like focus less on like grading papers and like assigning homework and things like that, and more on like interacting with your students and like helping students one-on-one and helping students succeed, things like that, because that's going to be what's transferable.
Yeah, problem solving, identifying issues, all of those types of things. So if you're looking for like a social working type position, make sure your education and the master's degrees are at the top, I would say. Unless you have a lot of experience, then it's okay to put it at the bottom, but you want that like right up front. So they're like, oh, they get really excited, right? So, but if you're looking for a service job, make sure that you probably don't want to add too much education that you don't need, just because, as Keelin said, it's overqualified, and you're going to want to put it at the bottom.
Yeah, Milan, I know networking is difficult for international students. Networking is difficult for people who are from Canada. It can be intimidating, it can be tricky, and I know that being an international student just adds that extra layer of difficulty. So I empathize with you for sure. If you have not attended already, Devant does have a workshop specifically for expanding your network that I would recommend that you go to, just to get some advice specifically on networking, because it is a whole other topic that we definitely talk about for an entire hour. But I will say that when you are networking, I know previously I talked about going directly to the recruiter or the hiring manager, but when you're networking, you don't have to go that high. So you could even just start connecting with people on LinkedIn who are already in IT, who are already working in jobs that you're interested in, who are already working in companies that you're interested in, and just send them a message and say something like, hey, I saw that you've been working at ABC company for the past 2 years. I'm an international student, and that's one of my dream companies to work for. Do you mind if I ask you some questions about what it's like to work there? Just something like that. People typically like to talk about themselves. So if you message them and say like, hey, can you tell me a little bit about your job, or tell me a little bit about the company that you work for? More often than not, people are going to be happy to answer some of your questions, whether they hop on a Zoom call and do it, or whether you just message back and forth. And then if you make a good impression, you never know, when that company is hiring 2 months down the line, they might come back to you and be happy to make you an internal referral.
Yeah, and just a quick note about sending out networking connections on LinkedIn. Make sure they're brief, so you do not want to send someone your life story. Make it very relevant as well. So your name, just be like why you're reaching out to them, maybe why you're interested in the company, maybe like 3 sentences, and then sign off. You don't want to ask anyone for too many favors or anything like that as well. So make sure it's nice and brief. In the networking workshop, we do actually have examples about that as well, but that's just a small anecdote on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't type out like a 500-word essay, like brief to the point.
Yeah.
And like a small ask, like, can you tell me what it's like to work for your company? Can you tell me about how you got to where you are? Can you give me some advice? Something like that. Not like, hey, here's my resume. Can you get me a job at your company? That's like too big of an ask, and you're probably not going to get a response. But again, networking workshop has examples, like good examples and also bad examples of what not to send.
But the ones we gave you they'll suffice. Like they're good. They're good.
Claudia, this is a great question. I would like you to give some tips on what we can be aware of once we get the first interview with HR. What are those key phrases to create a connection with the interviewer? I love this question. So very typically, the job search process in Canada your very first call is going to be with somebody in human resources or in the HR department. And more often than not, it is usually a phone call. Sometimes it's a video call on Zoom, but more often than not, it's a phone call, usually like 15, 20 minutes. I like to call this call a vibe check. They're like feeling out your vibes. They're getting to know you. This is the first time somebody from the company is actually talking to you, not just looking at your resume. And it's kind of like matching the resume to the person. They really just want to know a little bit about who you are. You're probably going to repeat a lot of the same stuff that is on your resume. That is okay. Yes, they've seen your resume, but don't make the assumption that they have memorized it. They have also seen hundreds of other resumes. So like, don't be afraid to repeat information that's on your resume. Don't make the assumption that they know everything on your resume. It's totally okay. It might seem a little bit redundant, especially I've worked with some international students in the past who say things like, well, why do I have to say that? Because it's on my resume. I know it's on your resume. I know you're repeating yourself, but still say it in that call with HR. It's really your opportunity to sell yourself, to let them know why you're such a good fit for the company. And like I said, it's really just a vibe check. Like they want to know your personality. They want to know a little bit about you. Be yourself. You don't have to put on like a persona in that interview. Like be yourself. Don't be afraid to make like a little bit of small talk. If it's on Zoom, smile, act excited to be there. If it's on the call, let that come through in your voice. Like they really just want to get to know you a little bit as a person, as well as learn a little bit about your background. And it's probably going to be very basic questions like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why are you interested in this role? Why do you think you're a good fit for this role? Tell me about your previous experience, things like that.
So Claudia, also, I happen to know who was going to be interviewing me based on the email that I got sent. So as soon as I found out who it was, I went onto LinkedIn and I did some research, and I found out that both of us studied sociology in university. So that is one thing I brought up kind of in my what they call an elevator pitch. So, and then of course she's like, oh, well, I had studied sociology as well. So something like that, that's relevant too. So if you happen to have gone to the same school or studied the same subjects, anything like that is great.
I love that. I do that as well. Finding the person on LinkedIn, finding something you have in common. And it's like, you kind of have to finesse it a little bit. It's not like Laura came in and was like,
no.
I saw on your LinkedIn that you studied. No, it's like mentioning that you have that. And then that person will say, oh, I also have that. And then you've kind of created a connection.
Yes. So we usually recommend like an elevator pitch, basically, when you first go into an interview, because usually the first question is, so tell me about yourself. Right? So you want to gear that to about 3 or 4 points that are very relevant to the job. So I always make sure that if the education's relevant, that I include that first. If I have any experience working with people at all, I include that as well. So you want 3 or 4 points that are relevant to the job. And if you can make a connection to that by seeing their LinkedIn profile and finding out that you went to the same school or have the same interest, that's relevant, of course, to the field, then yeah, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Sorry, I'm just scrolling the chat, and Darshan, you asked a question mentioning what to put on your resume if you have 0 work experience. And if I'm remembering correctly, you are from Algoma with bachelor's degree in computer science. Please correct me if I'm incorrect, but I think that is you. And Laura, I know you mentioned it briefly in the chat, but I just want to expand a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely discuss projects and coursework, like Laura said. And coming from that computer science background, when I work with web developers or people who are looking to get a job in IT, I actually recommend that you put a project section in your resume. So have that work experience section, but also have a project section, because that serves as work experience. And you can put specific projects that you worked on in school. So on a web developer lens, I always recommend that you have a project section. You have like the name of a website or a web application that you've built. You put the languages that you use to build it, and then you put the hyperlink to the live website, as well as the hyperlink to the GitHub repo. Somebody in HR who doesn't know how to code is going to be more likely to look at the live site. Somebody who has that coding knowledge, maybe the hiring manager, is going to be more likely to look at that GitHub repo and check out your code. And that in itself is work experience. Like, even if you didn't get paid to create that website, It just shows that you know how to create a website and that you have experience creating websites. So I always recommend like putting an actual project section and including projects that you worked on in school, because that counts as experience, even if you didn't get paid. Same with volunteer experience, even if you didn't get paid for it, put it on your resume because it still counts as experience.
Yeah, no, for sure. And on your LinkedIn account too, if you do have volunteer experience, you're 20% more likely to be seen by recruiters, and they're more likely to send you a message. So it is worth it. Even if you volunteered like at a soup kitchen for the weekend or anything like that, just put it on anyway. It'll help.
All right, we're just over our halfway mark. We got about 25 minutes left. So if you have a question, let us know. We are happy to help. Anything at all, even if it's very specific. That's the point of this session. That's why we're here.
Yeah, so just following up on the interview subject, since we have some time, after your interview, you are going to want to make sure that you email the person who interviewed you back within 24 hours. So I know it may seem strange, but they're also going to expect you to ask some follow-up questions at the end of the interview. One of the questions can also be about their contact information. That's also a great way, but they will appreciate you following up within 24 hours. That's going to get you very far ahead of most people as well. Again, you're going to want to be very brief in this follow-up with the email. You're just going to let them know that you've thanked them very much for their time, that you're very interested in the job. So it's going to be about 3 or 4 sentences at the most, and that'll really put you ahead.
I love that. Huge fan of sending a thank you email after the interview. Yes, for sure. Hi, Angelica. I just wanted to ask if it's all right to include in your resume a brief description of jobs that are not related to the position you're applying for, to show that there is no gap in your employment history. I was advised to remove it, as it will create the impression to the employer that I have a tendency to jump from one job field to another. Yeah, so this is a really good question. I think it depends on the job and it depends on the industry you're in, but we can answer just generally, unless you'd like to give us a little bit more information. Like what jobs are you thinking about removing because they're not related, and what types of jobs are you applying to? That'll kind of help us tailor our answer. But just in general, I think it could go either way. I think that these days, post-pandemic, with a lot of layoffs happening, with the job market the way it is not abnormal for people to have gaps in their resume. It used to be a red flag for recruiters and hiring managers to have gaps in your resume, but these days it is much more understandable. It's much more common. A lot of people have resume gaps, especially if you're a student. It makes sense that you have a gap in your resume because you were in school, you were focusing on your studies. So I always say that if you have a gap, like anything less than 6 months is not a huge deal. You don't have to elaborate on it. You don't have to do an explanation. If it is more than 6 months, if you're a student, I think that is totally fine. Because again, you're probably studying, you're focusing on your studies. It makes sense that you don't have a job. That's where you might want to include like things like projects and coursework in your resume to elaborate a little bit on what you've been doing with that time. But if you have a big gap, like years of a gap, you could include unrelated positions just to show, and again, focus on those transferable skills that are going to be relevant to the role that you're applying for. Okay, so you wanted to apply in business related jobs, however the jobs are in the food services industry. Okay, yeah, so I think it can go either way. I think you can remove them and just focus on like your studies and focus on projects if you want to. If you really, really want to talk about what you've been doing and like that paid work experience, you can include them and just focus on like the transferable skills. But again, if you're a student, if you've been studying, the employer is going to know that you have a gap because you've been in school.
Yeah, exactly. It also depends, I would say, how long you worked at those jobs. So if you were like working multiple jobs, as Keelin was saying, for like 6 months apiece, no, you wouldn't want to really put it in. But if you're at like a place for 2 years or something like that, I would put it in just to show that you're committed to the company as well. With business too, I think you'd be a bit surprised about what people consider to be like transferable skills and things like that. So I had a friend who applied to business position, and he worked at Best Buy previously, and he had relevant education, and all they asked him was about the Best Buy job. So you just never know what's going to hit also too. So if you are in the service industry, like fast food, for instance, like it also shows like you can multitask and that you can work at multiple jobs and communication skills. There are so many things. So, but if it's like a bunch of little jobs, like Keelan was saying, no, but if it's the long time, I would just include it anyway. But you can't really go wrong. There's no definitive, like, yes, this is absolutely right and absolutely wrong. So you can also try it out too, because it depends on what job you're looking for, right? So if it's more of an entry level, and if it's more of a longer one, that's going to depend on what you include as well.
Check on one-on-one coaching work throughout the process. I'm assuming you mean the job search process. Would you recommend, or we can benefit from workshops like this and just searching ourselves? Again, no definitive answer. As a career coach, my answer is going to be biased. I'm always going to recommend that you work one-on-one with a career coach, because I'm sure you've noticed at this point that a lot of Laura and these answers are saying things like, well, it depends on the situation, but here's some general advice. So like having a one-on-one call with somebody, even just 1 or 2 sessions, can really, really help. Or having that like one-on-one resume review or one-on-one LinkedIn review, because of course, every situation is different. So just like having that time to ask whatever questions you want and get answers specifically based on your background, your education, what type of work you're looking into, totally fine. If you don't have the finances to book on one-on-one call, I know things are tight as international students, use the Devant portal, attend the Devant workshops. But the Devant portal has so many tools. Like we have a resume builder, we've got a resume scanner, we've got an AI mock interview tool, we've got a whole master class with tons of topics. Spoiler, I am in the middle of working on a LinkedIn course right now to put on the Devant portal, so that will be there soon. So take advantage of the Devant portal for sure. There's so many good resources, but also I'm always going to recommend booking a one-on-one coaching session. Before I got into career counseling, I worked with a career coach, so I'm a big fan.
Exactly. No, I would also recommend too, keep track of where you're applying and if anyone's getting back to you. Because if you're like applying to all these places and they're not getting back to you, like it's also going to make you really frustrated, but it's also going to be a huge waste of time, which is what we don't want, right? So it might be like, if you notice that you're applying to like 20 or 30 jobs and you're getting nothing, it might be worth that like 1 hour investment with a career coach, just so they can like tell you the things you're doing wrong. It might get you further in the long run, but honestly, like Keelan was saying too, so many good resources, but I would keep track of it. So if you're like getting really defeated, that could be one reason to go to a coach as well. But if you notice that it's not effective, like the job search just isn't working, that's also a red flag as well. So I would just keep track of it.
Darshan, is the resume review opportunity going to be available in today's session? Unfortunately, we don't have the time to review specific resumes right now, but we will have a resume workshop coming up on August 30th and another one on September 13th. Those are both resume workshops. The August 30th one is more just like general resume information and what type of resume to use and what to include in your resume. However, the September 13th revamping your resume workshop is the one where you have the opportunity to email your resume in beforehand, and then we review it live in the session. We get rid of all of like your full name and your contact information, so don't worry, it's like anonymous. But you will get the chance to like have your resume reviewed live. So that is the September 13th session.
So yeah, I highly recommend going to both. What I would do if I were you, just anyone who's interested in that, is I would actually print out your resume, and then as they're going through, I would see like what's going on. So if you notice that someone's just like, oh, I have this like section and it should be down below, put like an arrow and draw it down below. I would take notes. So I know it might not seem like particularly relevant, but it's always relevant. Best practices always are. So that's what I would recommend doing for the August one. And then, yeah, if you can come to the September one, that's good too. But yeah, you'll find both of them really, really helpful. Best practices are always in style, so take advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, even if sometimes we get far too many resumes submitted that we actually have a chance to review live, but even if we don't get around to reviewing yours, a lot of people make very similar mistakes on your resume. So when we're reviewing somebody else's and you have your resume in front of you, you might realize like, oh, hey, I did that too. I'm going to change that.
What would be good too is if you came to the first resume workshop and then customized it based on what they said and then handed in September 13th, if you can. If you can't, that's fine. But that would be the best way, right? Because then you're gonna get the whole treatment. So
I love
yeah,
that.
that would be one thing to do too.
Danielle, is it hard to get a job related with the career that you're studying or related to your background if you don't have previous experience working in Canada? So I would say that a lot of the time when international students graduate from college or university, they oftentimes have the exact same amount of experience in fields as as domestic students. Like if you're studying something in college or university, when you graduate, whether you're an international student or a domestic student, you're probably going to have zero work experience in the field. Like when I graduated from university, I had work experience, but I didn't have any work experience in my fields, even though I'm a domestic student. So I wouldn't worry too much about like related career experience, because when you're a student, when you're a new grad, employers aren't going to expect you to have work experience in the fields. So that's when it's important to highlight things like part-time jobs that you had throughout university or college, just to show again that you do have that working experience, that you have worked in Canada, and focusing on those transferable skills. But don't worry about not having experience in fields, because domestic students probably don't have that either, unless they did like a co-op or an internship during their program.
Yes, for sure. So Daniel, you're going to want to make sure too that your education is right at the very top of your resume, not the very, very top, but right at the top so employers can see it. Your projects, the things that you did in school, right at the very top there. Really focus on those. It'll really help a lot. I think people really underestimate the transferable skills though that they have in other industries or just in experiences, right? Volunteer and stuff. Like, I don't think people realize how important like communication skills are, especially in like the tech field and stuff like that. They're like, no, they want to know more of the JavaScript and stuff. No, like they need people that can do both. So do not over or underestimate the soft skills. You don't want to put like too many in, but teamwork, communication, you're never going to go wrong with those. And you can just put them in the qualifications section. And that's something that you can think about as well.
All right, friends, we're almost done. We've got about 12 minutes left. Probably have some time for a couple more questions before we wrap up.
Oh, and Daniel, make sure you're always sending a cover letter. And that's also where you can discuss projects in a bit more detail as well as education, just in case you want to get them a little more excited for sure. We've had some great questions today.
Yeah, I love it. If you put your question in the chat and we missed it, I am so sorry. Please like copy and paste and ask again. We did not purposely ignore any of the questions. It was just foresight. We must have scrolled by it.
And we do have 12 minutes, so there is time.
Yes,
there is time.
But we did not purposely ignore you. I promise. While we're waiting for some questions, I will post some links in the chats.
Perfect. Perfect. So we have a question about one-on-one sessions available. So yes, Keelin and I both have one-on-one sessions available. You can go to the Devant portal. You can go to the one-on-one coaching. Both Keelin and my profile are there. You can sign up for whatever date and time works for you. They're 1 hour sessions, and we can get a lot done in an hour, as you can see. So it hasn't even been an hour yet. We've just packed everything from interviews and resumes and follow-up documentation all into this hour. So yeah, it's definitely something that you can think about. What I recommend too is writing down all of your questions that you want to ask in the 1 hour session so that you don't miss anything and you get the most out of the time as well.
Yeah, I just posted the link to book one-on-one coaching sessions. So we have right now, Devant has 5 coaches that you can book one-on-one sessions with. So Laura and me are both listed on there. So every coach has like a little bit of a bio as well. We have some coaches that like specialize in certain things or certain fields. So yeah, but I put the link in the chat for that. And like Laura was saying, you can get a whole lot done in 1 hour.
Yes. Especially if you write down the questions before our session, for sure. It's a good way to get the most out of your one-on-one time with us.
I'll also, while we're at it, post the link to sign up for the upcoming Devant events as well, our calendar. And I'm sure all of you get emails as well from Devant. Typically, if you're registered on the Devant portal, you're going to get emails about upcoming events and how to register. So check your email as well. Make sure they're not going to your spam.
Yes, and also just something to add about the resumes too. Devant has like a special software that you can like put the job description, I believe, as well as your resume, and it kind of tells you how many keywords and such are in there. So that's going to really help too when applying to jobs, right? Because a lot of times they're going through what's called an application tracking system when you send a resume and a cover letter. And if you don't have enough of the words that or the key skills and stuff that they included in the job description, then sometimes it just doesn't go through at all. So you want to make sure that it passes that to get to a human. So that's one thing I would do as well, is use that resume software and practice using that as well. That's going to help you get your foot in the door too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, friends, last 8 minutes. Got time for 1, maybe 2 more questions. If you have any burning questions that you want to make sure we answer, get them in the chat. Or again, we haven't had anybody brave enough to unmute, but we can
and that's
unmute
okay.
you. You just have to request if you want to, or use the chat or the Q&A.
Yeah, no worries.
But thank you for all your wonderful questions so far. You've been a great group with lots of really good questions.
Yes, there aren't that many people here, so it's been really good that we've been able to engage as much as we have. So it's great.
In this session, the recording will also be sent to you tomorrow. So if you want to go back and re-listen to anything that we've said, you will get the link to rewatch it.
Absolutely. And just since we have time, I'm just going to fill it with some resume stuff and lots of career development things. So when you're writing your achievement skills or any type of experience that you have, make sure that you're using the verbs. So like you want to make sure that you're including things like when you start the sentence, like applied this to this or worked on this. You don't want to make it like a noun. So you want to make sure it's like an active word. Does that make sense, Keelin? Maybe you can explain it better, but that's one thing I think is going to help too.
Yeah, I'm actually going to put one of my favorite articles about how to write resume bullet points. I just dropped in the chat there. We call them accomplishment statements. Yeah. Again, we talk about this in the resume workshop, but yeah, that is usually one of the biggest mistakes that we see on resumes is people not including like those accomplishments or achievements. Yes, Claudia, so this is exactly what we're talking about. Instead of doing like just responsibilities, which is what I call a task list, Always make sure that you're including achievements, like what you've accomplished in that job, what you've achieved in that job versus just like a task list of responsibilities. Darshan, I will,
That's really weird.
did that go through? The one that I just posted? And I'll post the other ones as well, just in case. Yes, okay, I'll post the other ones as well. Again, you get a whole bunch of links all at once.
Yeah, with accomplishment statements too, as many numbers as you can get is the best way to go. I didn't say that well either, but so an example would be when I worked at an employment counseling agency, I had a 6-month contract and I got 25% of clients' job offers within 6 months. So that's like what I put on my resume as well. You don't always have that information with you. So if you've worked in the service industry and you know you've helped at least like, I don't know, 40 people, 40 customers an hour, even just serving them food, I would say like, serve 40 people food within 60 minutes kind of thing. That's just a rough one, but any sort of numbers are a really good idea to include as well. Perfect.
Claudia ending us off with a controversial question. Laura, what is your opinion?
How many pages? 2 is the maximum, I would say. I've seen as many as 4 pages. Do not do that. You don't want to overwhelm anyone. So on average, a recruiter looks at the resume for about 7 seconds and they're looking at the very top. So that's why we're always talking about like packing the top with some really solid information. So projects, education, if you don't already have experience. So definitely 2. I know you could have a lot of experience. You don't want to put too much. So yeah, you just want to be sure that it's all relevant.
Yeah, I agree. Maximum should be 2, unless you're like a CEO with like 20 years of experience, then we can get a little bit over. But I'm actually a huge fan of a 1-page resume. I love a 1-page resume. My personal resume is 1 page. I always try to shrink client resumes down to 1 page. Exactly for what Laura was saying. Studies have shown that recruiters and hiring managers on average look at your resume for about 7 seconds before deciding if they want to read more or if they want to move on to the next one. So again, putting that information close to the top, recruiters read resumes from the top down. I like 1 page. I'm okay with 2 pages. I'm not like anti 2-page resume. I'm a little bit anti 2-page resume.
There's no definitive yes or no. There's preferences, right? So what Keelan's saying, and I agree too, right? But yeah, I don't want you to like go home and be like, I have to get everything on 1 page.
You can do 2.
You don't have to.
Just make sure the most important is on the first page, because know that the second page may potentially not get looked at, which is why everything important should be on the first page. Second page is fine. Just don't put like the most important information on the second page.
Keelan, do you know exactly? Someone's just asking about specifically where it is.
I can like that.
And I can answer this one too, what Aubrey's saying. So this is another one of those questions as well. There's no completely right or completely wrong answer. So Keelan likes to put a summary section sometimes on resumes. I don't. So, but there's no like right or wrong answer. Like you won't get penalized to the point. I just happen the way I write resumes to not put summary sections. I just use everything in the cover letter, but there's a really good reason why people use summary sections, right? Because it can really pack all the good things that you want right at the top for people to see. So it's one of those things. You're not going to be exactly wrong or exactly right. I happen to just use cover letters. Keelan happens to also include summaries sometimes, but just do what you can based on the job description and what you're applying for.
Yeah, I don't include an objective statement and I include a summary. I know some people include an objective and no summary. Again, it depends. could have arguably the best resume in the world, and there's always going to be a recruiter or a career coach that doesn't like something about it. Like the best resume in the world is different for everybody out there. It's very subjective.
But with the resume workshop, we show you it's pretty standard, so you can't go wrong. But
Yes.
with what Keelin and I are telling you as well, you can't go wrong either, right? These are all best practice things regardless. So there are preferences, but yeah, if you can just do what you can or what feels good and right as well, based on what you're applying for, right? So that's important too.
All right, friends, last minute, I'm going to share some of our upcoming events. Next Wednesday is the immigration Q&A. I always recommend that you go to this. It's very similar to what happened tonight, where you have an hour to ask whatever question you'd like, except next week it is with an immigration lawyer. Her name is Elizabeth Long. She is absolutely wonderful. She will do the first about 30 minutes. I believe she's talking about express entry next week. And then the final 30 minutes is just an open floor Q&A where you can ask her anything about immigration laws in Canada, immigrating to Canada, things like that. Immigration lawyers are very expensive, so I always recommend to go to this session because you get a free chance to ask a lawyer questions. August 30th is that when we were talking about basically just resume best practices, resume formats, what format you should use on your resume, things like that. September 6th is one of our expert panels. We have 2 women who have extensive experience working in data science, who again are going to answer your questions and talk a little bit about industry trends. So anybody in IT, even if you're not specifically looking to become a data scientist, if you're looking for anything related to tech or IT, I would really recommend you go to that one. And then September 13th is the revamping your resume. That's the one where you can submit your resume beforehand and we review it live, taking out all of that identifying information so it is anonymous. Okay. And then again, I put the link to book one-on-one. If you would like to book a one-on-one session with Laura or me, it is just on the Devant website. If you go to Devant.ca and then go to one-on-one coaching, you can book right on the page there. And resume writing service we also offer as well, which you can find through the Devant.ca website. This is if you are specifically looking for just feedback on your resume. If you have a lot of questions about like networking, applying to jobs, things like that, I would book the one-on-one session. If you just want resume advice, I would be booking this one. Okay, we went a little bit over there, but thank you so much, everybody, for your lovely questions. It was fantastic. I had a lot of fun. And we will hopefully see you at a Devant event in the future.
Oh, Keelin, just before we go, we have one burning question. Do we have any cover letter things in the Devant portal as well about writing cover letters?
Yes, I don't think we have a cover letter builder. We have the resume builder, but if you look in the Devant master class, the Get Hired master class, there's going to be, oh wait, no, we do have a cover letter builder. I lied. Let me put it in right now.
So Dragana, that's where you can go as well for the cover letter stuff. Just wanted
I would also recommend the master class.
Definitely. Yep.
All right, everybody, take care. Okay. And please feel free to find us and connect on LinkedIn as well. Yes. We're happy to connect with anyone.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good evening.